What's up, party people? I just won my first Super Bowl in a Madden 26 rebuild quick sim, and I couldn't be more excited. I'm here to tell you all about this. But before I go over this team, the playbooks I used, the coaching abilities, how I drafted, built this squad, the play sheets I used, all that, let's talk about defensive playbooks because that was going to be the main purpose of this video. A lot of you who have asked, does this playbook still work? Does that playbook still work? And the answer is yes. I went back and double checked to make sure none of these playbooks had changed, and they really haven't. So here are the 3-4 playbooks I'm suggesting you still use. You want to use the Ravens, you want to use Seattle, the Steelers, Tennessee, I like them in the 3-4 under, Broncos 3-4 storm, Buccaneers, Chargers, the base 3-4. You got Atlanta 3-4 under, New England 3-4 under, and the Rams 3-4 under. So those playbooks will work with an offense. They won't work with every offense, in my opinion. You kind of got to mix and match. So we're going to talk about the first offense that should be tested with all these playbooks, and that is the Cincinnati Bengals offense. It's the number one offense that we found. Throws for the most yards. You can really create some sick teams and do a lot of damage in a regular season and maybe now win Super Bowls. So I'm going to give you the combinations that work best with the Cincinnati Bengals offense. I have the Rams 3-4 under. A lot of 15-2 seasons. Don't be upset if your defensive rankings are in the red or in the middle. It's just what happens with the Bengals offense. There's nothing we could do about it. If you get a top 10 defense, a category where their points, passing yards, or rushing yards are given up, consider yourself lucky. You built really good strength there. Seattle 3-4 under, 16-1 seasons. Really good records using Seattle. And then my favorite is the Pittsburgh Steelers and the 3-4 under scheme, 15-2 seasons. And in the test I did, had a lot of top 5 rankings and top 10 rankings on the defensive side. So that really caught my eye. And then one of the last ones is the Baltimore Ravens, looking at 16-1 seasons. Now your ranks aren't going to, be as good. You're going to probably be in the red for sure in your ranks, but I got like 63 sacks and 16 interceptions using the Bengals offense and the Ravens defense, 3-4 under scheme. So there you go. Try those out. See if they work for you. Build your teams. Pick a playbook defensively. Grab the Bengals offense, and then start building your team accordingly. Now let's get into my rebuild of the Jaguars, how it took me so long, what I finally did. And I will tell you, I was not in the Cincinnati Bengals offense until this season. So I had to make the changes, and it worked. Let's get into it. All right, wait, I forgot to talk about something here. All right, so the best pairing, in my opinion, you will find out very shortly, is the Cincinnati Bengals offense with the Pittsburgh Steelers defense. The Pittsburgh Steelers in the 3-4 under. Now, here are the best schemes for the Cincinnati offense to use with the Pittsburgh's 3-4 under scheme. All right, so we got the run and shoot. A lot of 15-2 seasons, a lot of number one points, number one pass for sure. Some pretty sick passing numbers there. Then you have the pistol, bunch of 15-2 records using them. First in points, first in pass. Even got some decent defensive rankings. So that was good to see. And then we have the vertical power run. 15-2 seasons, number one offense, points, passing, and the most sacks I've seen put up, 75 sacks and 13 interceptions using this playbook combination. So you want that vertical power run Cincinnati Bengals offense with that Pittsburgh Steelers 3-4 under. And that's what you will see I used in this example here, winning a Super Bowl. So if you don't want to see how I did it, I do end up talking a lot, so I apologize. I just went through everything I could. Good spot in the video to cut it. Other than that, if you want to be, put to sleep or maybe pick up some things of how I built my team, go ahead, man. I got you covered here, going through everything I did with this Jaguars team. All right, well, thanks again. Enjoy if you peacing out here, or thank you very much for continuing to watch. All right, so it finally happened. Won a Super Bowl. Really good overall team. 95 on offense, 91 on defense. I think this is year 5 or 6. Took a while. We finally made a playbook change coming into the season. We were in Atlanta, and it just wasn't working for us. We had made the AFC Championship 2 years in a row, and then last year we finished 8-9. I don't know what it was. I think it was more of a personnel thing. So, added in some key free agents that are on 1-year deals that had higher overall. Couldn't replace them to the draft, and I think the big key here was the playbook change. So let's look at our schemes, and then we'll go from what the team looked like, how I put together, and then some of the coaching abilities and play sheets we used. So vertical power run for Cincinnati, mixed with Pitt's 3-4 under. It showed in the testing that it was one of the best, and that's what we went with. We were looking for record and having. Well, obviously our defense didn't finish in those ranks because not everything's the same here. But hey, we got sacks, and we got points on the offensive side, and passing yards. We did great. Rushing yards, is what it is. Knew it was going to be at the bottom of the league. Knew that my rankings for pass and rush defense were probably going to be in the bottom of the league, but we pieced it together. All right, so let's look at what happened here for the season. Trevor Lawrence, almost 5,300 yards passing, 48 passing touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Now, he didn't get these 2 interceptions until later in the year when we lost Travis Hunter for a couple games, and that's when we started losing. Or else we would have had a better record. So there's just nothing you can account for when it comes to injuries. You can try to have good backups, and I'm telling you, a lot of things are depth chart related, or having an injury. We lost 2 games in a row, and I had to make a depth chart change and fix things. It was fine. So make sure you're paying attention to that. Brian Thomas Jr., 101 catches, 1,400 yards, and 8 receiving touchdowns. Travis Hunter, he's really been a better wide receiver than Brian Thomas Jr., which is amazing for the most part. I mean, he missed 2 games, and he did way better than Brian Thomas Jr. in a couple of departments here. But 86 receptions, 1386 receiving, and 16 receiving touchdowns. And then one of the reasons why we made the switch here, I was like, we just got to lean into our strength, is this Cary Galloway is someone we drafted this year, and he was hidden development. He's 6'3", 206. Kept him in the slot all year. 72 catches, 1,100 yards receiving, and 13 receiving touchdowns. And our tight end was just there to catch some passes. And then this is our running back, Alex Conrad, just a power back kind of guy. And he started filling in a little bit. He split some time with Leak, who got hurt, as the pass catching role. So you can kind of combine these guys. So almost 500 yards receiving for the receiving back. And then defensively, we picked up Fred Warner on a 1-year deal. 88 overall middle linebacker, Mike linebacker. That really helped us. Which allowed us to put Devin Lloyd back at will, because the year before he was the Mike, and that really screwed things up. Tackles for loss, some guy named Taylor, 6'4", 339, 18 tackles for loss. You can find defensive tackles all over the place in drafts. And then our leader in sacks was Jonathan Fitzpatrick. Now, this guy was a hidden development superstar. Found him in later rounds. He's 6'3", 291. He was a defensive tackle. And with his speed and being under 300, I was like, he can play on the outside. He can play edge. And he proved to perfectly be there. And And Trayvon Walker didn't have the greatest year. He was missed for a couple games, but he's on his way out. He's 9 years experience. I think he's going to be 30 or 31. So we're going to have to replace him, and we'll probably try to replace him the same way. See if we can find a Jonathan Fitzpatrick later in the rounds. We're not drafting the top 5, so we're going to miss out on some of that top 5 edge talent unless we trade up for him. And then we really didn't have any interceptions, but it is what it is. And one of the better things about having Travis Hunter is I've always done my best really since after the first year, take Travis Hunter out of playing corner when I can, but when I need him, he's there, and he kind of stepped up in the playoffs as he was our third corner. A better idea of how I built this team: Trevor Lawrence, X Factor, 99 overall, and using the whole training thing with the players, the after school tutor, and what's the other ability? I forget. Well, we put the link to the tip out there where you can build players real fast. Well, that built these two guys out real fast in training camp. Conrad's up to 96. Byron Jones doesn't really get. Brian Jones doesn't really get used much as a fullback, but he's there. Thomas Hunter, 99 overall. This Galloway guy, he was, I think, a 78 or 79 overall, or maybe he was a 77 overall when we drafted him. And look, we already got him up to 93. Darren Barker, super fast tight end. You got him. We had to put him in the slot, and he worked out really well. But he is the starting tight end. Offensive line, I've just for the past 5 years been trying to build these guys. Just been building up this O-line as much as I could. I had a lot of training going towards them. What is it? The practitioner O-line. Trayvon Walker up to 91 overall. This Fitzpatrick guy, awesome, almost a 90 overall. He was 75 overall when we moved him, and he moved up very quickly. Taylor, someone we've been building for the last 4 years, and Matlock just took a big step. So always trying to build on the D line and the offensive line. And then Jack Kaiser he's only an 80 overall, but he's been an X factor for a while. He got it after the first year, just playing the Sam in the defense. So Shelton Grubbs will probably have to step up after Fred Warner. We're not probably gonna have money to bring back Fred Warner. A lot of money. Devin Lloyd, he should be going out soon. So corner's been a kind of a bugaboo for us. Real hard to get a high overall corner. Like, I've had practitioner corner, and they just weren't building fast enough. But they're finally starting to come around here. But the last 2 years, all right, Maurice Day, drafted him, top 5 talent, superstar, X Factor, and after one season he was up to a 90. Did a lot of that through the training camp. Same thing with a man who got hurt the year before, Dre Greenard. Same thing, top 5 talent. Found him in like the late first round, but he was a second round talent. So really built the back end of this defense, and that allowed me to play Caleb Ranshaw at slot for a long time this season because I wasn't using Travis Hunter as a corner at all. So that he was the starting free safety, and then he's actually one of the better slot corners we have. So that allowed us to move him down. He hasn't developed as much as I want, but I didn't know all about this after school tutor and stuff in training camp. But the only thing I'm going to say about this, and I'll probably point this out a couple of times, is my safeties are going to be 99 overall by the time they get to their first contract, and they far exceeded the normal progression of a player, so they're going to be asking for a lot of money, and I'm probably not going to be able to re-sign them. But as far as fixing a problem right away and having two 90 plus safeties, when I didn't have that for a while. Um, it's it's it works. It's just there's going to be a problem down the line. But just do it with another safety. Just annoying, but you know. And then here you go, Galloway. He's been in the slot the whole time. Trayvon Walker and Fitzpatrick are the rush ends. We got Taj Taylor. Now here's something interesting. This guy was sitting on the free agency market. He's an edge, but he's 6'4", 279, and he's a pretty darn good rush defensive tackle. So we moved him there over Matlock. And then even this guy, who was originally a defensive tackle, we moved to edge. He's actually an even better rush defensive tackle. So this guy, Jonathan Fitzpatrick, can play all over the place. I'd kind of look for these guys. I don't know how you guys approach your drafts, but that worked. Trying to come up with a creative way to get an edge player later in a draft. And then Fred Warner's been the sub linebacker. And for this final game, we had one of our starting corners at slot corner because we played the Rams in the Super Bowl, and they have a really good slot, and we needed to make sure we were strong there. So we had that change. We can talk about the season recap. We won 44-38 over the LA Rams. It's our first Super Bowl. Trevor Lawrence was the MVP of the game. He was also the MVP of the league. He was the Offensive Player of the Year. We had the Offensive Rookie of the Year, and we had the Defensive Rookie of the Year. Just a great year all around using the Bengals and Pittsburgh's defense. It's a great combination. It's all about pairing. You got to pair your playbooks like they're a steak and wine. And then we'll go to the schedule so you can see I didn't do any fuckery. As you can see, there's no force. That doesn't count because we are away or on a bye week. We had some monster games. And then down the stretch here, you can see we lost 2 in a row. We had to make we're out. I think it was Trayvon Walker for this portion here. And then it messed up our depth chart. So then we had to, we rebounded, making it a depth chart change. And then we lost Travis Hunter for these last 3 or 4 games. But he came back for the playoffs and won 26-14 against the Raiders. Won 36-14 against the Browns. Won 35-14 against the Titans. Look at that. We gave up only 14 points the entire way. And then we had to win a shootout against the Rams. I'm kind of glad we played against the Rams in the Super Bowl because it's 2 playbooks that pass a lot, fighting each other. And we're not playing like a great defensive running mixed playbook. That worried me, losing those type of teams. Like I was pretty worried about playing the Raiders and the Browns. These were great teams. So there you go. Those are the combinations of, and as you can see, Hunter and Thomas were the top wide receivers in the league. As you can see, it worked. This is the better combination. I really thought it was going to be Atlanta would have got me here. It got me close, but just, there's a lot of factors. So I want to go through something I did here. I didn't cheat, but I was going to try to. I created save points because I was going to, if I lost, I was going to see, all right, what does it take to win a Super Bowl? Maybe there's some kind of combination. So I'm going to go back through this real quick and just show you what my coaching abilities were from the beginning of the playoffs. So you can see what I used and how, and what my strategy was for using coaching, play sheets, and abilities in the playoffs, because it was a little bit different than what I did most of the year. Most of the year I was using training slots or coaching abilities for building players. Here's the first save point back at the beginning of the playoffs. As I said, I didn't force win nothing. It just happened to work out that this strategy worked the first time through. I wasn't going to count it as a win if I had to go back and give it 3 tries or, whatever. But it worked the first time. So either, maybe I just got lucky or I did find a better way to do things. So let's go to weekly strategy and then staff abilities. This is what it was suggesting. Now I got rid of field general and moved the chains because we're pretty much maxed out at what Trevor Lawrence and the wide receivers can do. So there's no need for that. I did leave that there, the ride shield, and then I had mostly defense here. So I had bookend busters, sheddables, trench goblins, and um, I went and built up aerial suppression. So I got this, since it was suggesting this, I used my coaching points and I bought it up to be the number, the fourth iteration of that to make that even stronger. So that's what I did. I kind of took what it suggested and changed things around. I knew we didn't need field general or move the chains. It like always suggests these. So kind of got to be, do I need these anymore? And when we don't. So it was all about offensive line and defense. And then I haven't touched play sheets the entire year. I was messing with them up until this year. I just, saw what it was suggesting and made sure they were, at maxed out at the fourth iteration, and it's just what it's been all year. And then as far as trainer abilities, I always go in here and fix this. I always do game shield and off-field rejuvenation, and that's literally all I did. And it works. So for the Bengals, it liked using a lot red zone for head coach and red zone for offensive coordinator, screen game play sheet, and nickel play sheet, and then it would cycle in some other ones. But this is what it pretty much went with the entire playoffs. I just let it tell me kind of. I think it does a good job for the most part of you. Tell you that this is what you should use or not use. So I hope that helps people. Yeah, other than that, I didn't also show. Just wanted to show this how much better we were than everybody else. 31 points a game. And the next was the Browns at 25 a game. Far and away more passing touchdowns. Still had 19 rushing touchdowns. We were in the middle of the pack on that. But first downs, we were in the mid. That was weird to see that we were in the middle of the pack. Of course, we're the least rushing team in the league. And we were pretty good with points against. Not the best, but 51 sacks, 6 interceptions. That's pretty good for not having the greatest D line right now. We've had way better D lines, and we've the last season we had a really good D line. We failed to break 50, I believe. So hey, just keep rebuilding, as I like to say. Keep moving those depth charts around. Make sure you got it down pat. Build to your strengths. Play to your strengths. And find a combination that works. If something's working, stick with it. If you're and that means if you're winning. If you lose 2 or 3 in a row, it's time for a change. Either that's depth chart, scheme, playbook combinations, something's off. But usually for me, I know I was using a pretty good combination of Pitt defense and Bengals offense. It was just a matter of all right, we're losing, and there was something out of whack. Both times we've lost this season, there was something out of whack with the depth chart and also missing some guys. So we probably could have had a much better season, but injuries happened, and we did what we had to do in the playoffs, and we won with a terrible defense as far as ranking goes, and an offense that throws way more than it runs. So tell me what you think. Let me know. Let me know if this helps. All right, I'll see you guys very soon for some slow simulation talk. I appreciate you guys. You guys have really rejuvenated me to keep going, and I appreciate you guys. And if you can, drop a like and subscribe if you haven't already, and let me know if this helps you, if you still got questions, and we'll work together to get you to be more successful in your rebuilds. All right, peace.